Hey there, writing buddies. Michael here with another video from Mr. Swain. In today's video, we're going to be going over how to figure out what your book's genre is. When we're trying to explain our books to potential readers or agents or publishers, if we are having a hard time clearly defining what genre we're in, the person that we're talking to, they're going to get confused pretty quickly. While readers might have a little bit more decency to kind of give you some more leeway, give you some more time to explain yourself, agents and publishers won't. Everyone's time is valuable, but when there's like real money involved, they are not there to sit around and waste time. They are really only going to be interested if they see money-making potential. Let's start with the main genres and get a little foothold on what our book is. Okay, that's not totally fair. There are plenty of good nonfiction books out there. I typically just get bored with most of them, but you can get memoirs out of nonfiction, and sometimes those can be wild as hell. Simply, this is anything with magic. If you have magic, you are writing fantasy. Anything with futuristic or advanced tech is going to be science fiction. If you're not sure if you have tech or magic, ask yourself this: can you explain where your magic comes from? In Star Wars, the Force was magic until Episode 1 released. In that movie, that basically gave us the idea of this midichlorian count, and that basically made it to where if you happen to have this bioorganism inside of you, then you had access to telekinetics and telepathy. If you can explain the genesis of your powers or tech, then you have a science. If it just appears out of thin air, no matter how much study or evolution the system might go through, you have a magic system. The main plot line is that one character falls in love with another. In this one, the main character is focused on solving a mystery. This is where the character is on a journey or quest, and their physical journey is mirrored by their emotional journey. This is the only core genre that is a specific age range. Typically anything from like infant to 8 years old is going to be considered a children's book. If you're writing in this genre, you are probably very aware of that, so you probably don't really need this video, but I need your views, so please stay. Now, some people might be asking, where's my dystopian? Where's my horror? Where's my paranormal? Where's all that at? Ask yourself, does your book really not fit into one of these 7 categories that we've gone over? Unless you're writing something that's like willingly obtuse, 99.99% of books are going to fit in one of these categories. Everything else is going to be technically a subgenre. When it comes to subgenres, there are so many that I'm not going to go over all of them. And I'd almost say that you can call your subgenre like really whatever you want. However, there are some more well-known subgenres, and if your book fits into one of those, it is going to be in your benefit to place it inside of that. If you have heavy dystopian themes in your romance, then you would want to say that you have a dystopian romance. That way it's just easier for people to kind of understand what it is that you're trying to pitch them. Some of the subgenres that you have are so strong that they might actually be able to kind of replace the name of one of our main genres. For instance, if you have a fantasy that is focusing on the horror aspect of the paranormal in your world, then you have a fantasy horror. When you have fantasy, paranormal things are pretty common in fantasy, so you wouldn't really want to go out on a limb and start calling it a paranormal fantasy horror. You want to kind of keep it as concise as you can, so fantasy horror in this aspect. However, if you have a mystery that focuses on those same things, the horror element of the paranormal, you might not only get away with calling it paranormal horror, but you actually might be better off doing so. Also, an adventure that dives deeper into the danger aspects and the dread that that danger can really inflict on the characters, that one you might want to call a thriller. Those are just a few examples, but sometimes there are subgenres that can replace that genre name. In most cases though, your subgenre is just going to help narrow down your category of the main genre. High fantasy or urban fantasy, contemporary romance or historical romance. I have seen some confusion where people are talking about tropes as if they were genres. Before I go through that list of tropes, if you're liking the video, go ahead and hit that like button down below. It'll help other writing buddies find this. Appreciate it. Most of these tropes are things like vampires, found family is brought up quite a bit, enemies to lovers. My own book is, Victorian era inspired for the types of wardrobe and clothes that people are wearing. These are not subgenres. They are selling points. If you have a strong enemies to lovers trope in your book, that is going to be something that you would want to have in your elevator pitch, but not your genre. Let's say that you have a high fantasy where the plot revolves around your main character falling in love with two women, and he has to choose between the two. I'm not sure who would, write something like that, but, I'd love to read it. Anyway, saying that you have a high fantasy romance is going to be acceptable. However, you might need to reword this next section. This part of your genre name lets the person know what types of themes are going to be explored in this book. What type of difficulties the main character will be running into. The main age groups that I look at are going to be children, middle grade, young adult, new adult, and then adult. In this case, children doesn't stop at 8, which I know is confusing. It's like everything about books is confusing except for writing or reading them. Middle grade is something like 12 or 14, so that means I guess that children goes up to 11 in this case. But honestly, I'm not really looking at children's books, so therefore I'm not 100% on top of that. YA is typically considered anything that is like high school grade, so that'd be like 15 to 18. You might stretch that out into like 19 or 20 though, but that'd be kind of a stretch. New adult is college age, so that's like 18 to 24. But even that's a little vague, so there's some wiggle room there too. The major difference between YA and NA is that YA is going to be dealing with coming of age themes. This is where the character is learning about who they are and they're entering into adulthood. While NA is about someone who's still young and they're still learning about what they want in life. They're probably still setting out some of their more long-term goals for their life, but they are not entering into adulthood anymore. They have already done that, so they are adults. They're just new. New adult. Lastly, adult is where your character wakes up with pain either in their back or knees. So 25 plus. Now this section is also usually in line with who your target audience is, but not always. Plenty of people who are not 15 to 18 are reading YA. So don't think that just because you have a YA story that you're locked down to selling to just that age range. But do be a little careful about marketing your book incorrectly with this, because sometimes this detail can kind of act as a movie rating system like PG-13 or R. If you have R-rated content, but you market the book as a middle grade because your main character happens to be in middle grade, you're probably going to have some problems. If you're like me and you have a new adult high fantasy romance, that is a little wordy. I think 3 details is kind of the max that we want to go for, meaning that the 4th detail needs to be reworded. Always keep the middle, so in this case it would be high fantasy, and then change one of the endings. So I might say it's a new adult high fantasy with a heavy emphasis on romance. Or I might say it's a high fantasy romance in the new adult genre. And I think I like that second one a little bit more, but you tell me in the comments which one you like. Also, let me know what your genre is in the comments below as well. I'd love to hear it. Hit that subscribe button down below to get more videos, and until the next one, happy writing, happy reading.